everybody is born with a little something extra, and sometimes they just have to find it. A little something extra is that superpower that every single one of us has inside that motivates us and drives our passion and makes us do the things that we do.
We're all on the same team. Let's think about how we can make that team as inclusive as we can.
For those of you listening to our podcast right now, you can also check out our video podcast at alittlesomethingextrapodcast.org.
I'm her energy right now.
She's high energy right
Oh, okay. All right then.
Teach knows.
Look at you. You talk about her nails, Cindy. Now she's ready to roll. That's all it takes. A little nail talk, a little Lucas talk. And hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of A Little Something Extra. I'm Nancy Gianni. I am here with
The GiGi of this Playhouse.
the GiGi of Gigi's Playhouse and
The Funko, too.
of No Playhouse.
Of
Yes.
No Playhouse. Of Bronco's Playhouse.
And we are so excited. I actually met this guest in person. So I really like when I've met somebody and then we have them on the show because I really want to share the story she told me and I was so touched by. So I'm very excited to have her. So Gigi, you want to talk to us and introduce our guest today?
Joining us today is Cindy Mrotek, founder of A.C.E. Therapist, a certified special educational teacher,
Ooh.
and a birth certificate assistant behavior analyst,
Yep.
analyst with over 20 years of experience.
Whoa.
Cindy has developed innovative
Innovative programs. Yep.
and interventions that empower children and dogs with autism. Our developmental facilities what makes Cindy's story even more compelling is her personal
You got it. It's her personal connection.
connection to the disability community with her sister-in-law Karen, who had Down syndrome. We can't wait to get to know more about Cindy and her experience and strategies for managing behavior and issues, creating effects, therapists, how we can contribute to build more inclusive communities. Welcome, Cindy.
Woo! Welcome,
Great
Cindy.
job, Gigi. There's a lot of big words in there.
That was a
great.
lot of big words.
Well, I got it.
That's the best introduction I've ever had. Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
think you summarized it pretty well.
Right?
Well, sort of, a little bit.
Sort of, a little bit. There were some big
So-
words. Yeah. She does a lot. She's
Yeah.
got a lot of talent behind her. And
Practice makes perfect, babe.
That's
Yes.
right.
You did
And
great.
that's what we
Yeah.
want to hear about today. So we're so happy to have you. I met you was it last fall? I think it was last fall at our Fox Valley
yeah,
location,
last fall.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
last fall.
And I loved your story of what brought, so you were, she was at a VIP luncheon at our Fox Valley, Illinois location.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to meet her and we started talking. And first of all, I love her heart. I love her strategies. But more importantly, I love how she met her husband. So could we just start there? Is that okay to start there?
Yeah, we can start there. We
Okay.
can start there. So I was in college at the time. I was 20 years old. I was a Special Olympics coach for a Chicago Park District, Mount Greenwood Park on the south side of Chicago. And I had an athlete I was coaching. Her name is Karen, and she had Down syndrome. And she said, I love you so much, Cindy. Will you be my sister? You need to be my sister. And I'm like, I can't let somebody with Down syndrome set me up on a date. Like 20 years old, I could find a boyfriend of my own. And I was at a local bar one night, I think for a Special Olympic fundraiser. And a guy came up to me and said, I think I'm supposed to meet you. I'm Karen's
Oh,
brother,
my gosh.
Tim. And we ended up getting married.
Isn't
And
that-
Karen gave us a speech at the wedding.
So she made it happen.
So-
She made it all happen. And now you
She
are
made
a
it all
sister.
happen.
Isn't that
She
awesome?
made it all happen.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know if she was so happy years down the line when I really
Like, what did I get myself into?
but no, she, yeah. So I tell everybody, Down syndrome literally changed my life.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Karen, I wouldn't have my family. I wouldn't have the career that I have. So
That
Yeah,
is awesome.
a gift. Get a
Yeah.
gift.
So
Yes.
was it that time that you were working with Special Olympics that you then wanted to then pursue special education and become
Yeah.
a behavior analyst?
Yeah. So I majored in special ed after I got my job in Special Olympics.
Okay.
So originally I was, an elementary education major. And then once I got my job in Special Olympics, that's when I changed my major.
I love that. And I hear that all the time. That's the beauty, truly, what I feel is the beauty of volunteerism. I mean, Gigi says 99% volunteer
Yeah.
run. And I can't tell you how many times we have a student come in and say, I changed my major, or I changed careers because of being here and what I've learned. And they want to make the world a better place and they want to go in and help this population. So I love that and I knew when you were there listening to everything, I could tell that you resonated with everything and you knew, you were just getting it. I'm like, okay, I need to know more about this person. She just seems to get it. And I love that. I think and that's why even, for the podcast today, we have so many families that listen. And I would just love for you to share some of your knowledge, some of your findings, and just, some of the things, the behaviors that you've dealt with the most and how you deal with them, and just a little bit about your practice and what you do.
Yeah. So I was a special ed teacher for many years in various settings. So I worked in a co-op, which is housed in a public school, but not part of that particular public school system. Then a therapeutic school, and then a general public school. And through the years, I decided, you know, it was great what I was doing, but I wanted to learn more and do more. And after I had kids, I left teaching for a while. And then I became an expert witness for an educational attorney, where I would go and testify and do process cases for kids who I would say are more impacted by their disability. And then somehow along the lines, I got my board certified assistant behavior analyst degree. And when I became a behavior specialist in a public school system, I would be going to IEP meetings with other private providers. And I felt like we weren't even at the same meeting.
Wow.
The private providers would be describing, the learner or the student and the goals they were working on. And I would be like, are we looking at the same kid right now? Because we're not working on things that are going to matter and make a long-term difference in this family's life. Because I experienced it firsthand when, Karen, my sister-in-law, would stay with us on the weekends a lot. We had a room for her at our house, and she missed out on a lot of skills that should have been taught earlier in life.
I agree. Yes.
We need to start teaching the skills that matter early and teach them often, because transition and teaching doesn't happen at age 18. It happens at age 4, right? We need to start preparing for the future as soon as we know what it could look like, because it takes a long time to teach skills.
Yes.
So that's when I decided I was going to open up a therapy company that really focused just on skills that would truly make a difference in the life of a family.
Wow.
Gotcha. That's amazing. And so what were some of these early practices that you think that families should be doing and identifying, in order to be able to help their child's behavioral growth over the course of their life?
I think one of the first things that we do at A.C.E. Therapies is we interview the family, right? Like, sure. I don't know what you guys need. I don't know what you guys value, right? So I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and it's very important to families that they're able to go to church and go to church picnics and, participate in, a parish family, because
community
outside of Chicago is made up of, Catholic churches mainly. So there's a lot of skills you need in order to get there. Right. So I need to start teaching those skills early. And most of those are, being able to wait, to be flexible. I heard you say to Gigi just before the podcast began, it's okay. You can be flexible with your schedule, right? And that's so true, right? You need to be flexible within your schedule. And we need to teach that skill. Most of the learners that come to us do not have flexibility.
They don't. Well, because everyone thinks it's structure. They need to have just structure, this, and that. And so then when you deviate from that, they fall apart.
they absolutely fall apart. I mean, even for me, like I'm a crazy CrossFitter and I don't like when my rig is taken in the morning, right? Like I have a hard time with the flexibility in my own life, but I can manage that if it's taken. Where our learners, like even the smallest change in their schedule, life can fall apart pretty quickly.
Yes. So how do you address that early on?
We train it and teach it in very small increments, right? So sometimes it's just come sit in this chair for 10 seconds. That's it, 10 seconds. And then you can't go back.
Yeah.
Or, let's try to drink out of a different cup, because it starts very small.
Yes.
And families realize these small things lead to big things. Pretty soon you're only drinking out of one cup. You have to have dinosaur chicken nuggets. You have to, turn the car a certain way to go home, right? All of these things lead up to a very inflexible individual.
Well, and I think for some people too, especially if they have an only child or a first child, like for me, Gigi was, she was the fourth. So she was like, let's go. There was she couldn't get on her own schedule because there was too many other things going on around her. Like she had to learn to do all the, you had to learn to fasten your own seatbelt because there's no time. We get in the car, we're running, then we're running here, we're running here. So I think that was a blessing when I look back. Had she been my first, I would have been in trouble. Like he was my first. And I literally, for the first 4 years, literally peeled his grapes and his hot dogs because I had heard you can choke. I mean, like the first 4 years. So I really could have really done her a disservice had she been my first. But I feel for people who it's a first or an only child, because that does happen then. They do get all their needs met and they get to do it in their way. And that's tough.
And that's tough. And then what kind of develops, and, families don't mean for it to develop, is that your family revolves their life around, the child with a disability instead of that person with a disability being part of your family and participating with your family. It gets backward.
Wow. So in that, because I picture some of our own families here at Gigi's in that exact place. So what do they do? Is it a behavioral specialist? Like is that where a great place to start? Is that something we should do a workshop on? You know what I mean? Like I think about, we have 62 locations all across the country. We serve family in 93 countries, but we do have our virtual platform that we can, and we're all about scale. How can we help more people, even if it's just to sprinkle the idea that it could be different, that your life could be different, to do a workshop on something like that, I think it'd be invaluable, because a lot of times you're just going through doing what you do because you have to do it, and you're letting them do it their way because it's easier.
It's easier. And, I give people this example all the time, and this is a true story. My sister-in-law had to have ice cream every day at 9:45 p.m. Like it did not matter. Like, God love her. Didn't matter the type of ice cream, but ice cream at 9:45 p.m. And I wasn't going to change that. Like, did it affect my life? No. I have my coffee as soon as I get up in the morning, right? So it's fine. But it would start to affect my life if she had a behavior issue, if I couldn't get home until 9:52.
Right. Yes.
Right? Like these routines only become a problem if we don't teach flexibility in them. So, I think there is, a platform for how, like, what's important to change and what can we kind of like deal with, or how can we teach them to manage their stress if we can't complete something that's super scheduled.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about just, and when you work mostly with people with autism or neurodiversity, that's really the main area that you're in. So I'm curious as to, like, so when you have these, when you're early on in life and you're really kind of just catering to your child, and then you become inflexible in these ways, is that something that it's so much more heightened because of autism, or is that something that typically, like, it would happen with any child? Like, how much is it autism versus how much is it the parenting?
I think it's just kind of a combination of everything. I think it's been really, in my world, we would say reinforced, right? Like, we know, some parents know, for an example, if I'll go back to the chicken nuggets, like if they are not dinosaur chicken nuggets, a meltdown is going to happen. So I'm going to keep giving him the dinosaur chicken nuggets instead of having like 5 dinosaur chicken nuggets and 1 regular chicken nugget, right? To kind of get them used to accepting that change.
Yeah.
So I think some of it is just, I mean, rigidity and, you know, that inflexibility, I think, is part of the autism and the neurology of autism, but it's how we help to make it stronger, right? Like we can teach routines or teach new ways to accept things we may not like and not having a meltdown, or even using their language, right? Using their words. Like, we're able to control situations as people without disabilities by using our language and navigating with our words, right? Like, oh, gee, I'm really disappointed. I wanted the Tyrannosaurus nugget, right? Do you think I could have that 3 instead of, you know, 2? So since they don't have the language to do that, it can turn into something a little bit
the behavior is
more rowdy. Behavior pop.
That's so interesting.
So
that's also interesting to me.
And
that nonverbal piece and the communication piece, and how do you know if this behavior is stemming from something bad that's happening, if it's stemming from just a frustration. Like, it's so much on a lot of these families. They've got their other kids, they've got other things going on. And when I see these parents ask for help, you know, I see, you know, whether I see it on, you know, these different places on social media. And I you know, part of me wants to go in there and answer the question. The other part of me goes, well, I don't have that. Gigi's, you know, not nonverbal, so she's able to get through these things. So I don't feel, even though I feel like I might know the answer to it, it's still such a big there's such a big question mark on what it is. You know, I remember somebody was talking about something, and it was the tags on the shirt was hurting the you know, and they didn't know it. So something so small that was such an easy change for that family, yet they were going through, you know, circles spinning trying to figure out what's going on, and it was just something so simple. So it's so complex, and it is it's a lot.
And families just want peace, right? They want homeostasis, right? Like, so they start to reinforce all of these routines because, and then we say they're eggshells, right? Like, that's the first question I ask families when they come to me. Like, if I had a behavior magic wand and could make your life instantly better right now, you know, what would it be? What eggshell do I have to remove so your life gets better as a family? And, you know, the answers vary all the time, but that's really the goal. We don't want families living on eggshells because then nobody's happy, because then you always have to have a perfect world. And you're rearranging your life to make the life of one person happy. It's like a Jenga game, right? You just don't want the tower to crumble.
And I see a lot of manipulation in it too from our kids. And again, this is more on the Down syndrome side. I don't know in the autism, but I see a lot of manipulation. I'm like, they can do this. And I see a lot of manipulation just based on, well, if I do this bad behavior, it'll go back to the way I want it to be.
Like, I know how to change this real quick, right? If I do this, I know what will happen. They're quick learners. Quick learners.
When Gigi was little, that was, I mean, when I kind of caught onto that, she knew how cute she was, and that she always knew that when, you know, we were just opening the Playhouses back then, and I had all the kids in tow with me. We had to go somewhere. So she could, when we'd come to the Playhouse, she would always run. There was this karate place down the strip mall, and she would always go taking off for that karate place every time we got out of the car, and I'm chasing her, and there's a busy street, and like just freaking out about it every single time. So I had to set, and she knew she's going to get away with it because I have to go into the Playhouse and help families and do my thing. So she still was going to be able to go in the Playhouse and play. There was no consequence. Just, you know, come on, we're just going to keep going with our day. So I used to have to set her up to fail. Like the one time I pulled her up and I got her all excited that we were going to the Playhouse and we were going to see all of her best friends. And then as soon as knowing that I wasn't staying at the Playhouse, like I knew that this was a day I didn't have to be there. So I drove there and let her get out of the car, run for the karate thing, and then put her back in the car and say, well, that's it. Now you blew it. Now we're leaving. And she was like, wait, what? Like, she finally learned. Like, there was a consequence to that action. But I had to stage it. Then I had to stage it in multiple multiple times in order to curb the behavior, I had to stage it, because in regular life, you can't just go, okay, well, now we're leaving. Sometimes you can, but many times you can't.
Sometimes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Most of the time you can't. Right. Like most of the time you can't, which is why, you know, when people call us, we are constantly programming just for that. Like we have the ability to do that. Parents don't, right?
Yes.
Which is why we give a big, I mean, it's part of our program, and most programs similar to mine is caregiver guidance, right? Because it's no good if I can only do the skill.
Right.
You have to be able to do
100%.
this or perform the skill with parents. You know, I don't want to be in your life forever. I really don't.
Yeah.
Like you need to be able to do this on your own.
So it's probably like 50-50 student and parent in the guidance and what
Yes.
you in this type of therapy.
Yes. So we give 1 hour of caregiver guidance a week, meaning we're training the parent on our behavior programs that we've developed and how to implement those programs at home.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
And then do you do like early childhood like consultation for parents to be able to kind of give them a framework as to how they could be able to like kind of curb some behaviors that might come on early as a child, so then they might not have to necessarily do these therapies later on?
So most of the people who call us or who find us, I would say we specialize more in families that have highly impacted by a disability.
Okay, so
and
they might be a
may
little
need
older too.
Yeah, longer term. So we service ages 2 through adulthood. So I have an adult only center in Downers Grove for ages 15 and above, because services for 15-year-olds look a lot different than they do
I'm sure.
for, you know, little itty
Littles?
bitties.
Yeah.
And they should
Yeah.
look different, right? We're teaching different skills. And I don't think it's right that 15-year-olds walk into a pediatric therapy environment, right? They don't.
Totally agree.
It would be age appropriate.
Yep.
So we developed a continuum of services, because I mean, GiGi, you're an adult now, and services tend to drop off after a certain age, right? There aren't a lot of options for adults. So we focus a lot on adult services. We do a lot with our early childhood population. We call it our Little Acers program, where we're getting kids ready to go to school, hopefully with less support.
Right.
So meaning, or maybe they don't need an aid all day, only part of the day.
Okay.
So we're teaching those school readiness skills.
Love that. Yep. That is awesome.
Yeah.
And late, my workout.
And you're late for your workout. Will you be
Talk about
being flexible.
Right?
Gosh, gee, thanks. Thanks for letting me finish the podcast. I appreciate it.
Okay.
GiGi has lots of questions though.
Yeah.
So would you like to ask one?
Yeah, I'm ready.
What do you love most about your job?
Oh,
That's a great question. There's lots of things I love about my job, but I think what I love most is every day's different. I never know what's going to happen. So just depending on how learners come into our building or what kind of support staff may need. So I love that every day's different. But what I really love is providing realistic hope to families. Because families want hope, but I don't believe in providing false hope.
right.
Families want to know what's achievable, what is realistic, where can I be 30 days from now, 60 days from now, 90 days from now. So just providing a framework of hope for families is what I love most.
Oh,
That's awesome.
beautiful. Is there like a pivotal moment in your career that you can identify that you could say, like, I know I'm exactly where I need to be. This is definitely, I'm so happy I made this move.
Franco, that's a tough question.
And I know you've done a lot of different things, so it might be at a different point in your career too. But...
You know what? I feel like I'm kind of always reinventing myself. So I will say I really felt like I knew I was supposed to open up a program for adults with disabilities. Like I knew that's exactly where I was supposed to be. When so many families called and said, I didn't think I had options left for my child because they're not ready to go into a community setting yet, like a community day program, because there's still skills that need to be taught, or they still need support. So I knew I was doing the right thing when so many families were saying, thank you. I didn't have many options left. So I think that was pivotal. And that's why
You still do what you do.
I think
Yeah.
I still do what I do.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it makes perfect sense. I mean, the fact that we have so many families that come to us at GiGi's when it comes to just being able to see the GGU program and the adult programming being like, I thought when
Yeah.
high school ended, like there was nothing left. Like they're not going to get a
Yeah.
career. They're not going to, socialize too much. There aren't a lot of people in our area. So just being able to give them some sort of opportunity to be able to, be able to build upon themselves a little bit more and prepare themselves a little bit more for the world is amazing. So the fact that you identified that for them and brought that forward is incredible.
Yeah, thanks. I think that's it. Well, you guys too, that's why you have an adult program as well.
And just providing purpose, providing belief,
Yes.
And letting them
Yeah.
know we know they can do it. But again, like with our GG University, it's confident you, healthy you, whole you. You got to take care of the whole person. So it's one part academic, one part fitness, one part nutrition. Because you can't just do one of those
Yeah.
pieces and expect to be, for that whole person health to be there.
It all has to come together, right? They all relate to each other.
And they need to own it. I think that's the one thing I've seen is they need to own it. Not mom or dad, not anybody else. They need to be the ones who own that. Whether it's through, whether it's their nutrition, whether it's their fitness, whatever it is, they need to own it.
Mhm.
And I think with that ownership comes an incredible sense of accomplishment and confidence. And we've always seen that with GG University, like, from the very first, session, the first class to the 5th class, to the 6th class, to the 7th class, watching how they walk, a little prouder, how they stand a little taller, how they don't fight the workouts. They don't fight, not being able to eat the stuff they know is bad for them because they're feeling that change. Once they start to feel it and go, oh, whoa, this is how I want to feel. I want to feel this way and I want to look this way. They start to realize they can own that. And I think that a lot of times
there's a buy-in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes. And that's GGU is the one thing we do. It's interview and application based. Still free, like all of our programs, but you have to know you are going to set some goals and you're going to reach those goals. And watching them set the goals, I think, is one of my favorite things because we just see them grow. And there's nothing, that's the most beautiful part of watching anybody in GG University or any adult, watching any adult grow beyond where they think they can be or their family thinks they can be.
Yeah, because they don't even know.
Yeah.
Right? Until they tried it. And the family sometimes don't realize it either. Like, what? They can do 10 squats? They never even bend down, right? And I mean, I agree. Exercise and movement is so important, especially with our adults, because it's just functional movements to keep them moving, to keep them healthy, to keep their brain thinking.
It gets them talking, being able to speak better. I mean, there's so much that goes with that nutrition and fitness piece. And I think so many times that's missed, especially in our population with the obesity rate. People take that low muscle tone as meaning they can't get muscle. They absolutely can. They need it. Sure. And, it's harder for them than typical population, but they can do it and they should be doing it. That's the medicine they need.
We always this is a true story about my sister-in-law. It's so funny. As long as she had a piece of fruit on her plate, the meal was healthy. So like she could have like a Big Mac and a fry and she'd be like, but I ate a strawberry. It's okay. Like
it's so
balanced.
True.
Yeah.
Yes. So that whole nutrition piece is so important because one piece of fruit does not cancel out the meal.
No, it does not. That's so funny and so true. I get that too with, it's gluten-free. Well, that doesn't mean you could eat 10 pounds of it, like just because it's gluten-free. Like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I do think the health and nutrition the nutrition and the fitness is such an important piece in their development, especially, again, I'm talking Down syndrome. But I think with anybody, I think with every disability, with every typical person, it's such an important piece in just lifestyle.
Yeah, there's a lot of research actually on like high impact exercise and somebody who has ADD or ADHD. It changes the chemicals in your brain. So those endorphins just help you focus more then, right? And
Totally.
pay attention. So just overall health with exercise. I agree. I love what you're doing.
Yeah, that part to me I think is such an important piece, but not always easy to get through to a parent. If a parent is not a fitnessy type person,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for those kids to even get in that mode. You know what I mean? Because they don't see it.
Yep. They don't see it, right? So they don't value it as much.
Yes.
Because it's not part of the family.
Totally.
Yeah.
Do you want one of the
So
other ones?
I have so many questions because I'm just fascinated by everything that you're doing, and I just and also autism as well. But something I've been curious about too is autism's definitely, and same with Down syndrome and really disabilities across the board, have evolved a lot over the last 20 years. I think our thinking and the scientific approach to it and being able to properly understand how people, why they are who they are, is huge. And I'm curious how your perspective on autism and just neurodiversity has changed over the past couple of years, maybe the last 10 years, however long you've been in this, and how you think society's also changed a little bit.
In the past few years, at least in like let's say the autism world, let's start with autism.
Sure.
The autism world, there has been a lot more emphasis twofold on, more of that neurodiversity piece, maybe individuals who have, I don't like to use the term high and low functioning, but that's kind of what
I liked what you
society
said earlier, where it was like more impacted or less impacted by their diagnosis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or let's say those less impacted, more
Sure.
neurodiverse, right? I think there's a lot more acceptance to neurodiversity now, and they're understanding that, the student in class who seems quiet or socially awkward, that's acceptable now, right?
Yeah.
Kids are beginning to understand that autism is part of life.
Yeah.
And it's okay if a child is stimming in the corner or asks for a break, because there's such an awareness piece to it.
Mhm.
And I love that.
It's amazing.
It's great that, they're contributors to society, and it's great. I also think there's been a shift of recognizing more profound autism now, and those families need a different level of support. And autism isn't just neurodiversity. Autism impacts families significantly, where families are worried about safety of their child. Families are worried about what's going to happen because they're not responding to their name. They can't respond to directions of health and safety. And those families need awareness as well, because autism isn't just neurodiversity and they can get jobs and they can function and they're just like us. Some of them need a high level of support and will the rest of their life. So I think it's good now, or better now, that we're emphasizing both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. I mean, it's so important too, because I think, like you were saying, the recognition now is so huge in people, and especially in like just young kids being able to understand, because just thinking of the long-term ramifications of how a person's going to be impacted by people actually understanding why they are who they are. It's going to really just provide a lot of positives in their life. But I think also just that acceptance piece and really understanding, like I remember when I was in school, there was, the kids with different disabilities. I hated the fact that they were all clumped together in the same classroom because they all have different needs. But you'd see kids that are experiencing those behavioral issues. And there was never really an understanding as to why that was happening. So it kind of, I think for me, I was always around Down syndrome, so I kind of had a better understanding. But I think people were really put off and really like just kind of afraid at times too, because you'd hear someone just they just got really dysregulated, they're screaming, who knows what could have happened. But nowadays it seems like there's been a lot more, just we've taken a lot of strides to really start explaining why people are who they are. I think, and being able to understand that a little bit better. And I think even younger kids in the younger population now can look and say, oh yeah, he has autism. Like it's something that happens. He might be dysregulated. It's not necessarily some cause to be scared or to bully or something like that.
No, not to be scared yet. Like, even I have a son who's 12 and he loves to play chess, and we made it to a state chess tournament. Don't know how. Awesome. Nobody in my house plays chess. I don't know how this happened. He's an athlete, but he loves to play chess.
That's awesome.
So he was at his state chess meet and he came out, and parents aren't allowed in. You're not allowed to watch. He comes out and I'm like, how did the chess match go? And he's like, it went well, but the kid I was playing against, Mom, it's timed. So after 65 minutes, the chess game has to be over. The match has to be over. And he started crying because the board wasn't finished. And he kept saying, but the board's not finished. The board's not finished. And I just said to myself, it's okay, because he probably has autism, because he needed to finish, right? So, just to have that perspective of like, it's okay. Like, he needed to take a deep breath. Like, there's just more of an awareness now. And I don't think that's anything I've done. I think it's something he's learned from school and the environments he's been in.
Yeah. It's one of the huge benefits of just like the way that information gets shared now. People can be a lot more understanding.
It's
one of the benefits, for sure. Because that's the thing. I mean, like, I would imagine bullying just in these schools and for people with autism and different disabilities, as much as we still see it happening, I would think that it's much more down, because people can understand that, like, that person's not some weird kid in your class. Like, no, he's his own person. There's reasons behind certain things that he does, but at the end of the day, he's a person, and I think people are understanding that better now. And I'm hoping that we can at least get into a better place. Yeah. But we always say here, like, the key to acceptance and inclusion is first understanding and exposure. And to be able to just be around, like, for me, or for any sibling, being around their sibling with Down syndrome, being around other people, like, you start shedding those differences and thinking that, like, there's differences in people. And it's just like, well, it's because I understand them. I've seen it. It's not different. It's normal. And it's just life. Right. And I'm hoping that's what the more inclusive classrooms can be like, and when people can really understand why people function and who they are as people, that's where we'll actually start seeing a much more prosperous and accepting and inclusive world. I would hope.
Yeah. And, I think you growing up with GiGi and, my kids being around my sister-in-law, and I'm not just saying this because I'm their mom, but I think they're kinder and more accepting individuals. Yeah. Because things don't bother them. Like, we were at church on Easter and there was somebody with a disability there and, yelling out a bit in between parts of the mass. And, every kid's head was turning and looking at them. My kids didn't turn their head. Like, it's just part of how they grew up. Yeah. So I think, like, part of your life, you're just more accepting of it. You're kinder. You have a better understanding. And they can tell their friends, hey, it's not a big deal. Yeah. They have Down syndrome or autism. It's cool. Whatever. So,
that exposure breeding acceptance is really a big piece. I really do think that, and understanding. And I think that it's like I said, I could have never made my kids who they are today without her. They are who they are. Their heart, their compassion, what they have, their empathy, all of that comes from, having a sister with a disability, which is a gift from God.
And it's not something you can teach. It's something you have to experience.
Yep.
You have to be enmeshed in it to understand it truly.
Yes. I have a question about stimming. And again, I don't know anything about stimming. Sorry. I know, Gigi, you can go next. Because I don't know.
I'm ready after this question.
I don't know much about stimming. I hear about it and I hear more about it. And sometimes I wonder, and this is just if sometimes that is also a distraction for that student to not have to do what they want to do. Again, manipulation in that piece. Because I know some people need it to regulate, like some people really need it. And then I also see other people who use it when they need it. And when I can kind of get in there and kind of stop that, like, I feel like I almost get this recognition, like, oh, you're on to me. You know what I mean? When they do something like that. She knows. Damn it, she knows the secret. And then I also understand that for some kids it's something that needs to be done. But is that also something that can be controlled? Like to say, okay, I know you need this now for this long, or that's enough, and then we're going back to this. Or do you have to just let it play itself out? Like I'm very curious about it.
It's so individualized. So we don't really change stims until it's really impacting their daily life.
Okay.
So if they're not able to complete, brushing their teeth because they're stimming, like that's a problem, right? Like we need to somehow shape that stimming. So, if they're overstimulated and, they need to go into the corner, like a quieter area or the corner, wherever a safe place is to stim, go ahead. We only really start to change that stimming behavior to where it's impacting their ability to interact with the world and with life. So a lot of the times, like when I consult in schools, if a child is really stimming, I try to shape it to something they can stim underneath their chair, or like a band or something, at their feet. Just to shape it to where they can still get that input that they need to regulate. But not saying you can't stim ever, but just shaping it where, you don't want them to be made fun of or, not
exactly.
Or
or like when it's inappropriate stimming, I'm like, everybody wants to feel good, but there's inappropriate stimming in my opinion. Like I've seen people do things. I'm like, there is no, just because that's not stimming. That's I want.
It is. That's technically still stimming, but it's not an appropriate stim.
Yes.
And there's a time and a place, right? Like, go to a closed door in an hour, or whatever it is. Like, just teaching the appropriate context of where to complete them.
And to stay on this subject, what is, like, at its root, what is stimming? Like, what causes that, and what is the reason to continue to do it?
Is it the feedback your brain gets, or what?
I think it's, I'm not like a neurologist or anything, but I think
from your experience,
your brain is your reaction to the way your brain is processing information, right? So where we would be able to say, like, I'm so excited, I'm in Disney World, or, this is a really happy place for me. We're able to kind of control all the stimuli that's coming to our brain and able to use our words. And sometimes people express it, through,
just different, different.
Most people think of hand flapping or rocking back and forth. So I think it's just regulating the environment.
Yeah. Gotcha.
What about like and again, what was that? They have that new show about Tourette's.
Not Tourette's or
Love
on the
Tourette's,
Spectrum?
So,
okay.
But that's why I asked the question, because I was so surprised on the therapy she was in that I forget what it's called.
Are you talking about the one with Bailey?
Yeah. But in her therapy, that they were giving her strategies to not scream out and to not. I did not realize that was something too. That there was strategies to not have those things happen. I don't know why I didn't realize that, because obviously, like everything else, there probably should be, but I was so surprised listening to the strategies of what she should, when these things happen, you need to do X, Y, and Z.
This outlet instead.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had no idea that there was a therapy behind Tourette's. I just thought that was fascinating. So that's why I asked about stimming too, because I do feel like, after I saw that, it just kind of like my light bulb went out, like, okay, so some of this stuff is controllable. Not that it's easy to control. I mean, it's taking her therapy and doing all these things, but it's just fascinating. It's fascinating to me.
And it's teaching a replacement behavior, right?
Yeah.
So instead of,
Screaming a swear
her
word.
vocal tics or vocal screaming or swearing, they're saying, do this instead.
Yeah.
Like you can still get that input that you need, but do this instead because it's more appropriate, right?
Yeah.
So it's just teaching the replacement strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a great one that I saw. I was watching the latest season of Love on the Spectrum because I'm obsessed with the show. It's amazing. And one of the people on the show, her name is Madison. She was a new cast member this season, and she was talking about one of her stims that she had when she was growing up. She was never able to really be in a classroom and stuff because she would just terrorize the classroom. She'd flip stuff, she'd be knocking everything over, and it was just that was just one of the stims that she had. And she ended up channeling it, and she met with a behavioral specialist and ended up channeling it through creating jewelry and with beads and necklaces and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so now she's just, her arms are just covered in jewelry and stuff because that was like her main stim, and she would do it all the time. But it's just, that's what when she needs to get into that place when she stims, she's just always doing her jewelry.
I love that.
Yeah. So it was a really good
Wow.
way of being able to reallocate that
Yeah.
behavior into something a little bit more constructive that's also not is disruptive
Yes.
as well.
I think that that's what I would love for parents that listen to this. This is why we really wanted you on, is to understand that you can redirect these things and that you don't have to change your entire life because you're living this life. Because I feel like I hear that so many times out of parents. And it's not easy to change a habit for ourselves, for our kids. It's not easy to always redirect. But when it's done, when you do that and you continue with it for your 5 day, 6 day, 10 day, whatever it is, continually doing it, they can break those habits and those different things that happen.
And I tell parents a lot. This is like my favorite line to tell parents when it's challenging. I know that it's challenging. Pay now or pay later.
Yes.
So, like how are we going to do this?
Totally.
Do you want to deal now or 5 years from now? Because
Right.
it's not going to go.
No, and it'll be easier now. It will be easier
Yes.
now, even though it doesn't seem like it. Much easier to crack it now than it will be 5 years down the road. And I do know,
Yes.
yeah, like that's why I was always so blessed, like with when we first started the Playhouses and during open play and like we would always make sure that the kids always, there was always food, and we always expected them to use their knife and their fork and to wipe their mouth and do all that stuff. But me with 4 kids, I didn't have time to do that. And there was those amazing volunteers who would sit with her and help her cut the food, help her use her napkin, always knowing you never had food on your face. And like, I was always so grateful because they changed that, because at home it was like crazy chaos. They were throwing shit, didn't matter. You know what I mean? But I came here and I had somebody who was patient, who didn't have to worry about my other kid. And they helped her learn how important that was to wipe her mouth. Just changed a habit that at home, who cares? Because I don't have time. I don't care if you throw it on the floor. You're sitting in your high chair. I'll clean it up. It doesn't matter. And then you come and somebody took that time and they gave her this amazing habit of making sure she always wiped her mouth, always had a napkin as a baby, as a toddler. She was, you know what I mean? Like, it was amazing. And that's the type of stuff I think if we can help parents start that early on, because to me, it's that kid in the lunchroom with crap all over their face because they were told it's okay to eat like that, not wipe their mouth, and that is different or made fun of, more so than an amazing individual with a disability sitting there properly eating with their, using their fine motor skills in a way that they were taught, using etiquette. And I think that that's so important. And a lot of times that gets lost. But that's why I look at it's just behaviors. And I'm so grateful to our volunteers because I can't take the credit for her always using a net. It was those volunteers who took the time to do that. So same thing. If I would have taken that time, it could have happened. Or I would have waited 5 years when the other ones were all at school, and I could have taken that time, and then it really would have been a bad habit to try to break.
And, I mean, you have Gigi's University and a continuum of services, and, we have a continuum of services. And I think it's important. And I mean, you're a parent of an adult with Down syndrome.
Yeah.
We kind of have a crystal ball a bit, right? Yeah. Where if we don't start teaching these skills early, we see how other family maybe, right? So like, we can see into the future a bit to say like, we need to teach these skills at this age because we know what adulthood is going to look like if they don't have these skills.
Right.
Or, it will make your life easier if we focus on this now.
Yes.
So I think it's great that, connect younger parents with older parents or experienced parents.
Yeah, to see what's possible.
Individuals.
Yeah. For me, I just remember going, I'm like, these kids are, these kids and then grow into adults are in school for 18 out of their 22 years they're in school. And then they're coming in and still not being able to write, though they're capable. They weren't expected to be able to write. You know what I mean? Like those things just, so with GiGi, I was like, and write the Wikipedia. If you want to watch iCarly, write the Wikipedia page. You want to watch Criminal Minds, one of her favorite back then, write the Wikipedia page. Like always had to hone those skills. And I did it. I think everything I've done, it's because, because I saw what happens if you don't. And when she was 2 months old and I took her to a bowling event for people with Down syndrome, and I had no idea what Down syndrome what my life with Down syndrome was going to be like. And I remember as I was sitting there with my best friend, with Denise, and we're watching, and some kid with Down syndrome was sitting like over here. And again, I had her dressed all cute. She was doing perfect, like this perfect little angel. And this kid just came over and he was eating those orange crackers with peanut butter in the middle. And he was like 12 years old, 13 years old, all over his face, and then just obnoxious. And I was like, so scared, like, oh my God, is that this perfect little angel in pink with her headband and dress, is that what it's going to be? Like, I have to make sure she can eat. I have to make sure she's potty trained. Like, all the things I was seeing, I was like, these are the things I'm going to have to focus on, because I was like, that he's probably a great boy, but right there scared me. And he probably scares people in the lunchroom at school. You know what I mean? Probably they're going, God, why are you eating like an animal? You know what I mean? Like, why do we let them eat like that? Why don't we stop that? And again, like I said, she used a napkin because of amazing volunteers who helped make that happen. But again, as the years go on, like we have to have these higher expectations for our kids. So each one of those experiences that I saw made me raise the bar for her. Like, you're not getting away with that. You're not doing that. I will never have you do that.
And unfortunately, people are judged pretty quickly just by appearances, right?
Totally.
With a disability or without. So if
Totally.
you see somebody with Down syndrome that does not know how to eat, or orange on his face, looking a mess, that can steer people away from him sometimes, even though he may be a great boy, like you said, right? So so it's just important, because we do want more acceptance and less judging and less bullying, right? Totally. It's a little thing you can do that makes a big difference. Like, let's eat properly.
Right. And take that time and have that expectation. I mean, and I feel like that's like at GiGi's, that's what we try to do is really raise those expectations, because we know it's hard. We know at home it's easy to just throw the stuff down on the ground. Who cares? I don't care. She could have crap all over her face at home. I don't care. But that behavior is going to lead into somewhere else if you don't curb it and stop it somewhere.
Well, across the board too, it seems like it's parenting 101. I mean, it's not just disabilities.
Totally.
It's like, look at how many people are out there, or a kid's no disabilities, nothing, but like from the age of 6 months through like all early childhood, you put an iPad in front of them and they're watching hyper-stimulating content. And now the person can't even function without necessarily having to have a screen in front of them, or if just think about like what happened during COVID. Like, so many kids were disconnected from each other, and now we're seeing the repercussions of the social distancing, literally social distancing them from each other now. Like, there's so many different aspects of parenting that, the decisions you make are going to then become, bless you, Cheech. The person that's it's, you're going to then see it in your child. So I think it's more so just about, it's about having the right
being aware
practices, and being aware of what you're doing.
Yeah. And the repercussions.
One of the books that I recommend parents to read, Disability or Not, like when I have a family that's newly diagnosed with autism and they have all these parenting questions, I have them read a book, and it's an old book. It's from like the late 80s, and it's called The Power of Positive Parenting. And because you know what, a lot of this is just, like you said, Franco, it's just parenting strategies. Like there's not like a magic wand. Let's read this old school book that's written by a wonderful psychologist named Dr. Latham, but it's just basic positive parenting strategies. It's not about autism, it's not about disabilities. Let's just parent.
What about the distraction factor? Also, like when I look at, thanks, Ash. When I look at me right now, okay, so I don't want to have to be like, I feel like I'm more distracted now than I've ever been in my life because of my phone. And that's because like I'll be working and I'll have to go into Salesforce. In order to go into Salesforce, I have to use the Authenticator app on my phone to authenticate that it's me. So then I go to the Authenticator app and I'm like, oh, my husband texts me. Oh, okay, wait, we're doing that. And then I forget that I'm on Salesforce to go do this thing. There's all these distractions for real. Now I think about my matter has been hardened in my head for as long as it has, and it's affecting me. Like I can't even imagine for these little guys that like all this different stimulation that happens. I feel like I now purposely have to say like that I am going to have to retrain my brain because of what this
Yeah.
phone has done to me.
$321.
Yes, because she texts me when it's 3:21 because she wants to give me the Down syndrome
Yeah.
numbers every day. So like just those constant distractions that we
reminder.
allow in our lives that are like that weren't there before. You know, I like when my kids were little, I was like, and we only just started having cell phones. I was like, oh my gosh, how nice for my mom that your phone was at your house. Like I remember I was sitting in the pickup line at St. Anne's picking these guys up when I found out that someone had died. You know what I mean? And then like, so there, I wasn't the mother I needed to be to my kids at that pickup. I was, you know what I mean? Because
You're taken out
there
of the
was
moment.
instant access. Yeah, it wasn't like I had to wait till I got home and it was going to be, you know, like it used to be for my mom. And that, you know, for her,
Yeah.
I'm sure before that, you know, her mom didn't even have a phone maybe. I don't even know how old way, you know, how far back all that goes. But, you know, there wasn't all that instant access to these literally emotional roller coaster that we're constantly on.
Yeah. And I was just going to say that it's just, we're too accessible to people,
Too accessible.
right?
Yes.
Like too accessible. I don't have to respond right away, right?
I know,
Like
yes. Yes.
it's okay.
Yeah.
I have to respond right away.
Yeah.
And we're too accessible.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not kidding you. I have a teenage daughter. This is what they're doing. They're at my house.
Yes.
I'm like, you're next
You're
to
next
each
to
other.
I know.
Talk. Like, they're right there.
Right. What?
It's
Yeah.
the social skills.
What does
have
that mean
just
for
gone-
the future?
I
Yeah.
mean, it's just gone
See?
down.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the first things parents want us to work on. Like, can you teach them how to give up the iPad? Can you
I'm
teach them how to give
sure.
up the
Yeah.
phone?
Yep.
Because it causes such a behavior issue then.
Totally.
When you have to away.
Yep.
And that's, you know, a 3-year-old with autism.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And I would imagine too that it's also something that causes the bad behaviors as well. Before you give it to them, they'll start acting because they know that the response is going to be giving them the iPad.
Yep. Yep.
When they're acting
Yeah.
out, then they're like, okay, I'm going to act out now because I want to use the iPad.
Yep.
Do you see that a lot?
I know. I know how to get the iPad. I'll start crying and, you know,
And there's
I'll
that
get the
emotional
iPad,
manipulation you were
right?
talking about.
Yep.
Yeah. And
so,
it might not even be an understanding that they're actually acting out. It's more so it's like, I've done this before. So this means that this is going to is going to initiate this
it's
response.
worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we call that, you know, their behavior was more efficient than their communication. Right?
Yes.
Right?
Totally.
Their
Yes.
behavior was going to get them more than saying, I want the iPad.
Yeah.
So,
I
because
love it.
what usually happens when they say, I want the iPad, a parent says no.
Yeah.
But they
Right.
know if they try, they're going to get it, right? So,
Yep. That was that manipulation. I was
they're-
talking about.
Exactly it.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was always
So they're
that don't cry because that pisses me
You're
off.
just gonna
Like
get
my
you
kids
more
would try
mad.
to manipulate me with tears. That never worked in our house. They were like, no,
Oh,
that never worked for
She
me.
would
Like
just ignore us.
you think you want to never. Like I see kids breaking down in a store for a toy. I'm like, you ever do that? Like, no way
know.
would that behavior ever be tolerated, ever. Manipulation by
I am
tears and any manipulation in any form, I cannot stand. From
I am
typical
for
kids.
sure the villain in my house, like without a doubt.
Yeah.
Moms are.
So
Most moms are.
yeah, I am the villain. Like you can beg, you can cry,
Yeah.
like that is not the way to win me over.
No.
So
Yep, exactly.
go to your room and give me your phone. So, you know, we'll talk about this too.
Can I answer my questions?
Oh yeah. Sorry, Gigi. Yes, you could answer your question. Go ahead. Sorry.
Be waiting.
Oh, she's been waiting.
She's been waiting patiently.
I
Sorry.
know.
Oh, been waiting.
Sorry,
Very
babe.
nice. Thanks.
But
Gigi.
I didn't get playing. So
You didn't complain?
No.
Oh, you did not
No, you did
complain.
what is a way people can be kind?
What is a way for people
Oh.
to be kind?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of different ways I think people can be kind. I think most importantly, especially in the context of what we're talking about, the best way to be kind to somebody is to let them learn from your experience
Hmm.
and the knowledge you have. So, you opened up GiGi's Playhouse, and that was kind to so many people, everybody who walks through your door, because you wanted somebody else to have a different opportunity, a different experience than what you may have had, right? So I think the best way we can be kind is to take whatever experience we have that we want other people to learn from and to become better from. And I think that's also a way, you can kind of change the world that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that response.
Really
Yes.
good.
If you had one message to the world, what would it be?
GiGi, you are a great person to ask questions.
Besides him.
I think one way to change the world is just to do something good for somebody every day. Just do good by people. And if you do that each day, you're making a difference in somebody's life. And that makes the world better. And I have a quote at the end of my email. I always change the quotes that I attach to my signature. But the quote that's on my email right now is from Dolly Parton. And it's find what you love and do it on purpose. Oh. And I think if you find passion and if you do it with purpose every single day, then you'll make the world better.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely going to change the world.
Wow. I love that. And you just we play a game called 20 questions. So you could pick any random thing in the world and you could ask 20 questions. Can I hold it in my hand? Is it a person? Is it a this? Is it a that?
Living.
Is it living? Yeah. So
living.
Yes. These are just to keep, for Jeets, like we just play a lot of these games. And Dolly Parton was her person. That was her thing that she did. I was like, that's so funny. Dolly Parton. Like, what is a 22-year-old talking about Dolly Parton for? But I loved it. I thought it was like good for Dolly, keeping herself so relevant that you've got her in your
email lines, and GiGi's got her in her games of 20 questions.
So our podcast is a little something extra. What do you think is your a little something extra? What drives you every day to do the things that you do? What is your superpower?
What is my superpower? Oh gosh, I wish it was something cool like reading people's minds. I think I have two superpowers, but I think they kind of go together. I'm not good at accepting the word no. Even though I program for kids with autism to accept the word no, I'm not good at accepting the word no. Because especially for people that I want to advocate for, for those who need voices, I think there's always a fix.
Yes. Right.
Like there's a problem is always solvable and we can get there to make somebody's life better. So I'm not good at accepting the word no. I'm also a connector. So what I mean by that is if somebody comes to me with a family comes to me with a problem or concern, if I don't have the answer, I can connect you to somebody who does, or I'm going to figure it out.
Love that.
So, if you say no to me, I'm going to connect you with somebody who's going to tell me yes, or get me the answer that I need. So I think, just connecting with people, connecting to what people need, using that reflective listening. And, that's how you kind of create realistic hope for people. Yeah. So, I think those are my superpowers.
I love that because I was thinking as you were talking about it, I'm like, I wonder what she thinks they are, because I feel like I experienced them when I met you. Just and again, I when I think about your answer, it's exactly it. I was thinking compassion, helpful, connector. So thinking about that, your answer was perfect because I was thinking, I'm like, if she doesn't have an answer, I have one for her because I was able to feel that energy from you. You know what I mean? When I met you. So I think that's a great superpower to have, and just that compassion, acceptance, not acceptance of the word no, but just acceptance of all.
Not of the word no.
Yes.
And yes, but those are my superpowers.
I love that. Well, GiGi does some tips. GiGi, you want to talk about your tips?
Yes.
Yes?
Did I say tips?
I did say tips.
Tips!
Sing it!
This is my tips being a good teacher.
Oh. I'm going to take hold on. I'm going to write them down.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Give homework to students, make them responsible.
Oh, that's a good tip.
Listen to what your students have to say.
Oh, very good.
Be nice and respectful to each other. Focus on what each student can do.
Oh.
Teach and model good behavior.
Oh,
She likes your tips.
Gigi.
Do you have another one you want to add to that? Anything you'd want to add?
I love that. You know, I think something that some teachers, not all teachers, are missing is we need to listen to the family. We aren't experts
Yes.
on the student we're teaching. We're contributors to their life.
Aw.
So we need to listen to the family. We need to hear their voice
Love
and hear what their goals are
Yeah.
and make an action.
Wow, I love that. And that, first, I love your tips, Gigi. She's doing her tips with her literacy tutor.
I wrote them all down.
Yay!
I wrote them.
I love it.
I'm going to put it in my office.
Yay!
Yay.
And is there anything else before we go today? Anything else you want to add? I mean, your website, whatever. If anybody has any questions, I still would love to do a workshop or something. I do think we should.
I would love to.
Yeah, I think
I would love to do a workshop
yeah.
with you.
I think that would be really cool, and we could do it, virtually. So also we could do it here and then stream it also virtually for our other locations or for our other country. Anybody else who could be listening.
Yeah, I would love to do a workshop. And first of all, I'm going to be at your walk June 21st in Fox Valley.
Yay!
A little team. I'm excited for the GiGi walk. That's the first
Yay.
thing I want to say.
That's awesome.
Thank you for having me on.
Of course.
You can. Our website is ace-therapies.com. And we do treat individuals with Down syndrome and autism. We do have dual diagnoses we treat.
Love it.
And we treat ages 2 all the way up through adulthood. We're on Instagram, ACE Therapies, Facebook, ACE Therapies. I'm on Instagram. I don't care if people reach out to me.
Good.
Cindy
Oh,
Mrotek.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm also on LinkedIn.
That's awesome.
Give her a follow.
And thank you for sharing those strategies. We'll be using those. And again, I would love to get some more of them and possibly do it with the different age groups. We serve prenatal diagnosis, through adulthood. So we serve every different age group here. So I would love to do a couple for the different age groups because like you said, it is so different for a 5-year-old to a 15-year-old to a 55-year-old, also different.
And share one.
And 21. She only cares about 21.
Yes.
No, it's not me.
Not you?
It's Lucas.
Oh, it's Lucas because Lucas. Here he comes. Always finds a way to get Lucas into the podcast. Well, thank you so much. This was so great.
Absolutely.
And we would love
it was a great
to get
conversation.
in the National Playhouse for a tour to see everything in action today, which I knew, thank God, we didn't do it in-house because we would have, with all the technical issues we had this morning. But we would love to have you here and give you a tour. It's 12,000 square feet of awesomeness. And we'd love to show you around and then put something together for our families.
Back to Fox Valley soon.
Sure.
You want to go back to Fox Valley soon? Yes, we could do that.
Yay.
All right. Everybody is born with a little something extra, and sometimes they just have to find it. A little something extra is that superpower that every single one of us has inside that motivates us and drives our passion and makes us do the things that we do.
We're all on the same team. Let's think about how we can make that team as inclusive as we can.
For those of you listening to our podcast right now, you can also check out our video podcast at alittlesomethingextrapodcast.org.